how can companies prepare to tackle the more nuanced technical accounting items, ahead of close, or just be prepared once close happens to really take stock of things and start executing?
The first thing is you want to document every process within the finance and accounting, so that once the acquisition is done, if the acquiring or the acquired company's accounting employees come over, they know exactly how you want it done. Because when documenting, you also find out where the gaps are in your process. You want to use an accounting firm or a highly skilled accounting and finance third party to come in and look at your processes and look at, accounting isn't science as much as it's art, right? I mean, there's 100 ways, well, not 100, but there's multiple ways to do amortization. There's multiple ways to do 606, in terms of, the discount on a price. You want a third party to come in and say, look, how are we doing it? Is there a better way to do it? Have your books completely as clean as possible, so that if anybody comes in and says, well, why did you do it this way? You have backup. And it's not backup in somebody's head. It's documented. This is how we do it. And it may change. Because accounting is, for the most part, historical, looking backwards. But you want to make sure that at the point of an acquisition, your in-house books and records are as clean as possible, because that's what you're going to bolt things on. And if it's in somebody's head or there's inefficiencies in the process, that first acquisition is going to A, magnify it, and B, I'll go back to culture. You're going to hear on the other side, well, that's not how we did it. Well, if you can't defend your process, then you're just going to spend and lose efficiencies and productivities. The other thing I want to make sure that I add is, don't go into the acquisition thinking the way you do it is the best way to do it. You may find through your due diligence, like you were just saying, Zach, there's a better way to do it on the accounting side, and therefore we should start doing it that way. But your auditor isn't coming in to see, are you doing it the most efficient way? The auditor is coming in to say, are your books and records materially accurate? You six, right? So you're closing June and you're sitting in the middle of July. Well, or I'm sorry, you're sitting in the middle of August. Well, you just lost July to make changes. The auditor doesn't care about that. As long as 1 + 1 was supposed to equal 2 and it did equal 2. Bringing in a third party to say, well, if you would reduce that close in June to 2 weeks, then you're only sitting at the middle of July and you can make course corrections. Because I guarantee if it's taking you 6 weeks to close by yourself, it's not going to take you less than 8 weeks to close once the acquisition's put on top. And then with accountants, having been one for many years, they take, just like a founder feels like that the company is their baby, a accountant feels like the way that they are doing the transaction in the journal, in the general ledger, is their baby. So to come to them and say, well, I think we should do it this way, is like you're trying to cut the arm off of one of their children. It's a personal thing. It just is. It's, this is how we've done it. I've thought through it, and it's very personal to them. So if you come in and just say, well, no, you've got to do it this way because I say so, you're going to get pushback. If you sit down and understand where they came from and why they did it that way, you could say, hey, we're coming to the same reasoning. We're just doing it a different way. We're coming off of the interstate on, the second exit. You were going to the third exit, but we're still getting to the same place. And that will help as well. But it's amazing, unfortunately, accountants are pretty stubborn people. It's a lot of black and white thinking in a very gray area.
Absolutely. And yet, I think that's one of the reasons from the private equity perspective why maybe that strict playbook on how they go about their acquisitions, especially from a due diligence perspective.